This last week, my anxieties about doing this session has been really quite heightened.
Yeah.
Which is a good observation of sort of, the input on the spot to actually have to sort of delve into my own stuff is always, more challenging, because it's much easier to sort of stop and listen to other people and support them, and then that journey of I do it. I do a lot of self-reflection, but it's always anxiety provoking to do it in a live space. But that's okay. I like that. I like the pressure.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, of course, it's a different energy, isn't it? I mean, the aim is to actually just create a cocoon and just push that all away, because there's nothing we can do about that. We just allow.
No, but I guess it really highlights for me that I do spend quite a lot of my internal chatter worrying about what other people think.
Yeah.
And it's been a big one for me. It's probably been the Achilles heel, I would say, for me, just traveling through my old life journey and all the different things that I have done. And I think it's probably more to do with not what they think, but what I think of myself.
Yeah.
Which is quite often very little, because I don't, that high achiever, that perfectionist mentality, that, that sort of knowing that I can always give more than what I'm giving, even when I'm spent and I've got nothing left. I believe that I should be giving more than what I'm giving. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's interesting you're talking about this. Just today, I read something briefly about bravery, talking about bravery. And when we talk about bravery, we often mean, having courage. So rising through or rising above adversity, doing something, making something happen, saying no. And sometimes bravery is just allowing ourselves to be okay with our own messiness, our own faults, our own feelings of not being whole, or not feeling whole, I should say, because we always are whole, but we don't feel it. That's bravery too, or bravery to take time out, or bravery to not do, to sit down and be uncomfortable in those feelings that we have. That's also bravery. What you're doing right now, that's an act of bravery, showing vulnerability that feels uncomfortable. And it's a form of bravery, courage. It takes courage to do that.
Yeah. See, I don't see. It's really interesting you say. See myself as brave. Do I see myself as courageous? Probably not. When I look at myself, I don't label myself with those attributes. I know I've had a journey, and I know, but it's like, I guess I've just been conditioned to just pick yourself up and brush yourself off and just keep going, and keep like that Northern English working class sort of conditioning. Like, you just muck in, you get in, you get on with it, So as much as I've probably had quite a colourful existence, I probably don't look back and see it in that regard. They're all experiences that have got me to where I am now. And have I, I don't know. I think if I look back, everything's been a stepping stone. And I've never really felt quite I don't know. I guess that thought process of that I can always do better. Like with my dance career, can always do better than what I did. No matter, like you finish a performance, you get these people coming up to you. They they pat you on the back. They say, "Oh, that was amazing." That was, but the little voice in the back of the head going, "Yeah, you're pissing in my pocket." Just what do you want? What do you need from me? Why not wasn't able, and I guess even to this day find it really difficult to take that on face value. I think it, and even like it probably sabotaged my dance career quite a bit, because I never felt like, as much as I knew that it was a good show, there's always more I could have done, or that timing was start there, or that lift could have been better, or and that's that mentality that you're trained into a little bit as a dancer, is that no matter how good the show is, next time maybe do this a little bit better, or you can always improve on what you've put out there. And I guess probably through my career as a massage therapist, I've done the same. And I know, like, it's really interesting. Sarah will talk me up as a therapist to people, and I get embarrassed by hearing her saying it, because like anybody can do it. Anybody has the ability. Everybody has the ability to do it if they put their mind to something. I believe we can all achieve anything if we actually choose to achieve it. So when I have clients that rave about me, or people have gone, "Oh, you changed my," I'm like, well, no, actually, all I am is the facilitator. You've actually done the changing. I just offered the table to be able to create a space for you to be able to make that change for yourself. Maybe I've given you a little bit of information, and maybe I've given you a little bit of awareness of where your alignment problems are, or where it's coming from in your body, that the tension's building up. But really, you've done the changing, not me. And again, I guess I see that career path that I've done is that anybody can do it. I just chose to do that as my career. Yeah.
What would it take for you to allow yourself to receive those accolades from people? What would need to happen for you to allow that to sink in?
I don't know, because I feel like sometimes it challenges my It's really interesting you bring that up, because when I was younger, I used to be one of, like, the mental thought processes was, I don't give a rat's about what anybody else is like. If I'm going down the pathway towards my beginning of my dance career, look, Billy Elliot is sort of an overthrow of where my journey got to before my dad. Like, obviously, I was supposed to go and work in the factory with my father, but I wanted to get out, and I chose to dance and all that sort of stuff. So that sort of aligns with that. But my attitude at that point, when I was in that stage of my life, was probably more ego-based, and I was like, I didn't give a rat's what anybody else thought. This was my journey. This is what I was doing. I'm going to be a dancer. Nothing is going to stop me. And I had that real, fiery Aries drive, and I was able to stand my own, as much as there was a lot of abuse and a lot of bullying and all that sort of stuff that went on in my schooling and all that sort of stuff. It was really only physical. I didn't feel at that point that it was affecting, that bullying stuff affected me mentally, because I had that bravado of, well, fuck you, this is what I'm doing. If you don't like it, I don't give a rat's. But, and I guess as I've gotten older and wiser and more, I've sort of lost that a bit. And I've flipped it. The coin has flipped to the other way. Is I spend more time worrying about what other people think than not worrying about what other people think. What could I do to be able to acknowledge and accept people's accolades? I really struggle with that one, and I have for a long time, because I know with my perfection mentality, I don't see myself as good enough. I don't,
So, do you feel that you have to approve and agree with those accolades in order for you to receive them?
I guess I do. Yeah.
What if
And
you
when I
didn't?
don't see myself as good,
what if you didn't have to approve with it? What if you could accept that, wow, that's what they think of me, how beautiful. It's not how I see me, but that's amazing. And being able to accept it, not because you agree with it, but because you're just gonna allow that in anyway.
See, I struggle with that. Like, even just trying to consider that. I know, it's like on a physical cellular level now, that creates, I can feel my cells vibrating against one another, creating a stress level for me of even thinking that process. Because if I don't believe it, if I don't believe what someone's saying, I don't feel like I can accept what someone's saying is the truth, because underlying that is, I guess, look, I guess it comes from even further back regarding historicals for myself of I don't know, my thought process is whirring, but I'm just trying to slow it all down. Having been taken advantage of when I was younger for someone else's pleasures. makes it difficult for me to believe when people are giving me accolades, they don't want something.
Mm. Yeah. How does it feel to say that out loud?
Oh, look, it's challenging, and it's something that I've, I mean, I'm aware of that history, and I wasn't for a long part of my life, even it had been something that I'd blocked out for a long period of my life. It didn't arise into my conscious thinking until about, I would have been about nearly 10 years ago, that had even happened to me.
Yeah.
It took a trauma event for it to arise itself. And look, I feel like I've sort of probably not fully dealt with it, but been able to compartmentalize it to some degree to be able to still function. Yeah. I probably do have, it's probably created a long line of trust issues about being able to believe what people say. And probably left me with a rhetoric and inner chatter of that never being good enough.
Yeah.
Because even I know when I reached out, when I found out about this, the retort that came back from my parents, particularly my mother, was the exact same retort that I was given when I reached out as a kid. So it probably left me feeling as though what my feelings and thoughts were not worthwhile, or not acknowledged, not worthy, I guess. And that I probably brought it on myself.
How old were you when it occurred?
Look, it sort of fit it from the recollections and remembrance of the situation. I'd be 4, 5, 6.
That's not your fault.
And it was a close, very close family member.
Yeah.
And I know it wasn't my fault, but there's still a huge part of it that owns it.
Yeah.
I mean, it shapes you, obviously.
Yeah. And if
it's
you look
also driven me for the last 10
Yeah.
years to better it,
Yeah.
and to use it rather than let it use me.
Yeah. I mean, in a roundabout way, those feelings that you have or not being able to trust people in that way has been keeping you safe.
Yeah.
really. That's
Well, it sort of allows me to be able to not have to own my shit,
yeah.
because if I don't let anybody else in, there's only one other person that I've ever really been able to let into, that's Sarah.
Yeah. And when things happen to us when we're that young, I mean, yes, we can take responsibility, but when we're little, we don't know anything else. We're supposed to be protected. We're supposed to be safe. We're supposed to be looked after. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes children are taken advantage of, and it's not their fault. It's not your fault. Yes, you can take responsibility for you now as an adult, but it wasn't your fault.
Clearly, it's a really interesting one now. Like, I guess because there's never been really any acknowledgement from, primary caregivers and parents that it just, I probably have carried it as this, because it sort of led to believe that it was all, I made it all up, it wasn't real. That person wouldn't have done what they've done. There's no way that would happen, and I've spoken about it before, because when the person that did it was on the deathbed, for the last, I remember seeing him in the coffin, and there was this sense of sort of relief and lightness and joy that I felt. And initially, I always thought, and this is before I knew what had all happened. Okay, this is before the revelation of it all came forth. But during that time, there was a sense of he'd suffered for the last 9 years of his life with emphysema. So I never took a really shower. He's wasn't able to breathe easily. It was always struggling and battling and struggling and battling, and everybody sort of used to be really concerned about him and all that sort of stuff. And when he was lying there, I actually felt for the first time that he was at peace in a long time. And I felt sorry for him. I felt sorry that he'd had to go through that. But when I stripped it back and realised what it was more about relief for me. It was about that he was out of it, out of the equation now. But obviously not. And I was still pretty young at that stage in terms of life experience and wisdom. But yeah, that I still can't quite kick it. It still bites me. It still grabs at me and holds me back. That whole mouse wheel is still there that I jump on at times.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it now with even with my, the counselling stuff and the business, and there's a doubt there that I'm capable of doing what I should be doing. Like I had a chat with the Nor about it the other day, because I have sessions with the Nor as well, and I just feel like a fraud.
We all do.
No, but I shouldn't.
We all
Because
feel
I'm a
like
perfectionist, remember?
yes. We all feel like frauds because we know that there's always another level to what we do. You know, we can always be better, or we can walk out of a session and go, I should have said that, or I never realized, I should have, could have. It's just part and parcel of what we do, and we carry that in different with different weight depending on how we're feeling and how we're doing. I think it's less about that and more about being aware that that's who we are, and it's part of this helping others. Most of us has got a story, a backstory, and it comes back sometimes. You know, it's hard to sometimes shift and completely remove those parts of our life because they've affected us deeply. But also, they don't have to rule us 100%. They can come back, and we can sometimes even get to a point where we allow to invite them in, or allow them to sit down next to us, that pain that we have, and go, hey, there you are again. It's okay. I've got you. And remember that we've came a long way, and no, it's not gone, and it's not maybe ever going to be gone, but I'm aware now, and I know more of me now, and I know how to seek help, and I know that voice in my head, and I can talk to it if I need to.
Yeah. And that's like I said earlier, it's like it's there. I know it's there, and I like, rather than it own me, I want to know, like, own it. And I feel like I do. Like, there's times in my journey where it doesn't even enter my head, but then there's times where it just, I know it just, it's like the an analogy is probably, it's like the German Shepherd at the car yard. As you walk past, you hear it just barking and barking and barking and barking and barking at you. You know, and you can still hear it barking when you walk past it, because it still keeps going, because just, you know, and it can be debilitating. It can be, you know, it can really, I've had a really tough couple of months in this last part of the Victorian lockdown, because I've lost quite a bit of business on the tactile side of things, which has put a lot of pressure on the family unit, and you know, running your own business and all that sort of stuff. It's put a lot of pressure on us, but so I've really sort of been focusing on the online stuff. But obviously, you know, it's a very large ocean out there to try and it's probably raised that self-worth, the self-esteem, the self-doubt has probably raised its head a lot more than it normally would when things are functioning, and you know, and it's, I feel like it's always like when you're in the darkest time is when it starts to really sort of bite at the heels more.
Yeah.
You know, when you're feeling that real vulnerableness, and you're feeling that, and it's just left me feeling like I'm not able to even fulfill any of my roles. You know?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like I've got all, I have all those tools that I share with clients, and that we teach, and that I do use for myself. But I guess at times I go into the self-destruct button gets a bit hit.
Yeah.
And rather than, it's easier to fill my day with looking after, or not looking after, that's the wrong word. It's sometimes when your energies are so low, it's hard to stop and face it.
Mm.
And see, it is easier to keep running.
You're talking about your voice in your head.
Yep.
What does that voice feel like to you? Because it feels like that's quite an auditory, strong experience for you. The talking in your head when you're talking yourself down. Have you ever listened? Is it your voice, or is it somebody else's voice that you're hearing?
Yeah, no. I know whose voice it is. No, yeah, it's very definitely that mother, brutal Northern English humour, which is just, it berates on the soul. It's just dry, emotionless, but the voice of not. I know it. I hear it as me, but I know it's not me. You know what I mean? I know that comes from my mum's own challenges of being a young mum, wanting a career, never really achieving it. She had amazing skills as an accountant. She can speak 7 different languages, right? 5, like she's amazing, but feels as though she's never reached her potential. So how that was projected onto us as kids was the bar was set really high. And if you didn't get to that high, you were a failure. Now, my older sister struggled with it, and she lives on the dark side of the moon at the moment, and has for many, many years, and is unfortunately unreachable by any of us, because of her own personal journey. My other sister Helen, she managed to, and she's very good at it. She managed to sort of, being middle child, I guess, she managed to sift her way through it without it getting to her too much. With a high perfectionist mentality, and being blessed with dyslexia at a very young age. All my schooling I spent with my mother looking over my shoulder and correcting everything that I did, and taking my work and putting red lines through it before I could take it into school. And I'd have to write it out 5 or 6 times until it was neat enough for her, for me to be able to take it to school. And it just, it just broke me quite a bit, that, because I was creative. I'm an arty one. I wasn't an academic. Or my soul didn't fit into the academic. I've lived left field quite the majority of my life. And And it didn't really matter to me. Like if my handwriting was scruffy, so what? You know, and if I didn't get my homework completed, so what? But the pressure that was put on by my mum, you know, and as I've grown older and wiser and sort of stripped it back and understood it to a lot, but I see where it came from, and you know, it was her own stuff, but it did for a long time leave me feeling completely inadequate. I'm much more confident with it now because I've been able to work with it. You know, I wasn't able to read a book for a long time, and now you know, I can quite comfortably read a book. I wouldn't even dream of writing anything for someone else to read, because like, what have I got to say? Or if I'm writing it, is it going to make any sense to anybody else, sort of thing, you know? And now I'm quite comfortable with that because there's tools I can use, you know. Grammarly is a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've probably got more confidence in that without worrying about that. But I know I still have a habit of, no matter what I do, I will get someone else to check it first. And I do that because I need them to tell me that it's okay.
Yeah. So you have a real clear awareness around that voice in your head. You know, that was probably the clearest explanation I've ever heard of that. So if I would ask you another question around that, where do you hear it when you hear it? Do you hear it in front of you, behind you, on the side of you, inside of you?
It's on this side of the head, on my right hand side, and it's always up in that, like that voice comes from that right hand hemisphere. And it cuts in, but when it cuts in, I feel it physically in my jaw, in my throat, and in the top part of my chest when she's there. You know, it just, on a metaphysical level, it's because I feel like my voice is being taken away. You know, I can't say what I need to say. I'm not being heard. You know, it's like, back off, leave me alone. And I still haven't been able to find the words how to like, but it probably works out here because I still, even, you know, my age now, I still haven't quite found a way to express it, because one, I know it'll fall on deaf ears. But I also don't feel as though there's much point in expressing it because it's, because the ears that it will land on are unreciprocative to the awareness around their own stuff.
Is that true?
Pardon?
Is that true?
Probably not. I'm probably more frightened about bringing it up and having to deal with the consequences of me bringing it up. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I live in Australia and they're still over in the UK.
Yeah.
Couldn't get further away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were able to,
do I need to, is the question.
if you are able to express yourself and say whatever you wanted, without any consequences, without anything happening to you, what would you say?
Initial response that came to my head is, I'm sorry, I'm not good enough for you. That's the first, like, the subconscious track that comes out. What would I say consciously? I honestly don't know how to do. I wouldn't know how to approach it with it. I guess because there's such a wall up regarding, like, you've got to pick and choose what you communicate with my parents. I am very different. You know, I like my worldview, probably because I left home so early and I got out and I traveled and I've had experiences outside the norm of that life. Obviously, how I see things is very different to them. So when we do communicate, it's a guarded communication, because you just don't want to stir the pot, or I don't, you know.
Yeah. See, the beautiful thing, you believe in energy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the beautiful thing is that we don't have to communicate verbally to the physical person. We can solve a lot and resolve a lot inside of ourselves energetically, and not needing to actually confront the person. We do it in an energetic way. So when you said, I'm sorry, I'm not good enough for you, that's an energy. That's that's your truth. That's what it comes from. You know, you can communicate in those ways. You don't have to communicate so that it makes sense to the other person, because we're doing this for you.
That's an interesting thought there.
So if we would just take the voice that's at the back here, I'm just curious if you could just visualize it. Even you can close your eyes if you want to, and just move it in front of you so that you can see it, so that it's not there somewhere. But if you could just energetically or visualize it, feel into it, however you want to do it, and move it into a position so that you can have it in front of you. Could you do that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, because like I can see it. I get that energy of my mum here, but when I bring it around, it drops, and it goes to that little child.
Okay.
You know, it's that. You know, and I've done inner child work before, but But yeah, I guess when I sort of stop and take that moment, when I do bring it round, it's not my mum anymore.
Okay.
It's me. It's that little child of me.
So when you're feeling that little child, when it turns into that little child, if you move it forward in front of you, how big is your mum?
Yeah, she's huge.
Yeah.
Competent giant.
Yeah. Can you shrink her?
Yeah. And I see that little child in front of me with a look of fear on their face.
Is he facing you, or is he standing in front of you facing forward?
No, he's facing me.
He's facing
Facing me,
you.
looking up with that look of fear and despair.
What would happen if you would ask him to turn around and you would put your hand on his shoulders, or put your hands on his shoulders?
It's obviously, it's a nurturing way to do it.
What would you tell him if you could talk to him? What would you say?
It's got to be okay. Do whatever you need to. You can do whatever you want. I feel like saying that out there in front of you is where you need to be heading. You know, it's all there for you.
And he doesn't need to do it alone.
Pardon?
And he doesn't need to do it alone.
That's really interesting. It's really challenging because with a 5-year-old myself,
You can hold his hand now. You've became the adult.
Yeah. And I guess that's why, you know, why it comes up now is like this opportunity that, like, I mean, I've got an 18-year-old as well. Like, I've got a tribe of my own, but it's a very different thought process to have looking at that inner child of my own and standing behind it than to look at it looking at me in despair. It's a very different feeling. You know, there's an excitement rather than the fear. For them, not like for that energy. It's like the world is your oyster type mentality that I can then share with that child, which is something that I want to be able to share with Charlie at 5.
Yeah.
And with all this that's been going on, particularly the last couple of months, I know I've detracted myself because I've had my own battles going on, and it's just.
So if you're able to close your eyes right now and visualize yourself standing there next to this 5-year-old child, next to or behind, maybe you're holding his shoulders or holding his hand.
It feels right for me to be having my hands on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Standing behind him with him close.
Beautiful. And that way you're both looking forward, right? You're standing behind him, holding his shoulder, holding his back, making sure he's protected and safe. You've got him. I've got you. It's okay. And then visualizing the path in front of you, how that's clearing, opening up. And you can walk on that path together, not as separate people, but as one. Don't need anybody else to tell you what's right or wrong. You can guide him. And he can maybe even afford to be a 5-year-old child. Because you've got him. You're keeping him safe. You can adult. And he can be free. You can put down that baggage together. He doesn't need to hold that anymore. You've got him now. Together. And no matter what's been said or what's been done, you're here now. When we're children, we're looking for that support from an adult. We're looking up to see who's there to keep us safe. Now you can be that adult. You can hold him and keep him safe. You can tell him that. How does that feel, Paul?
Oh, no, that's it. I guess that's probably the first time. That whole the process of turning him around and holding his shoulders just feels really right. It's like there's a groundedness in it. It feels more. So yeah, it's interesting because it's not like I'm standing there as the guide for them. It's more just as that, I got the back. I've got your back.
Yeah.
You go do what you need to do. I've got your back.
Yeah. And you know exactly what he needs. You're the only one can give him that.
It's a very different feeling.
Mm. Let's go gentle today.
Well, that's yeah. It's very different. That it's going to take a while for that to settle, because that's, you know, I don't think. I guess from on a personal level, for me, putting myself in that perspective has such a flow-on effect to so many other aspects now, you know, and it's going to take a little bit for that to assimilate, I think.
Mm. It's like all this inner work is kind of like a domino effect, I find. You know, you've got all the dominoes, and you shift one, and then all the other dominoes also kind of shift.
Yeah, and that's what I'm seeing on a, like I can feel it on a cellular level of that now. That yeah, it starts to stack up rather than being uneven on top. You know, it's going to take a bit for it to stack up, obviously, because there's a lot to unwrap with it all. But just that simple shift in that foundational setup can make such a huge effect.
Mm. Beautiful.
It is, thank you. Because I can see it totally, like, even changing how I relate to Charlie too at the moment. Like, and just, yeah, you know, as a parent, you want to be there for your kids, but you've also got to try and it's that line between educator and nurturer.
Yeah.
You know, that because like there's so much for kids that have to, like, in society as we are, there's so much that kids have to get to be able to function. But I guess I wasn't. I have to be really careful of getting caught up in conditioned parenting patterns that were laid upon me, because I never felt like I was able to express myself. And with Charlie being so expressive and so high energy, but just going through that, flipping that around and seeing myself standing behind my own self, that connection, that field of position where I have been playing, that starts to stack up differently,
Yeah. It sounds like he's the greatest teacher.
Oh, absolutely. God, he tests me.
Yeah.
And I reckon he is probably just like I was. I probably tested the shit out of my parents. Because stubborn, strong-willed, determined, He's been here before because he knows so much. And he knows so much. But yeah, as a parent, that's really challenging.
Yep.
Look, and I guess I just had to write it down because it's about trust, isn't it?
Maybe a good thing to do right now after this session, spend a little bit of time reflecting, connecting to your wisdom, and just write whatever needs to be written.
I want a journal, absolutely.
Doesn't need to be for anyone but yourself.
Oh, I'd already planned, like I knew I was gonna, there's already, I've already allocated enough time for that.
Good.
Today.
Good. Great.
I want to stay in my space.
Yeah.
And work my process now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just stay in that process without analyzing too much. Take some time and go out and take your socks off and put your feet on the grass and or go walking in the sand or put your feet in the salt water.
I actually had thought about going out for a fish this afternoon myself.
There you go. Yeah.
Which will be quite cathartic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That's like, oh. I think a meditation and a journal practice is very much in need right now. Yeah.
That sounds beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Amazing, Madelaine.
We'll chat to you soon. I did receive your email as well, but we'll have a chat. I don't want to talk about any of that now. But let's have a chat about that. I'll email you back and we'll have a chat about that as well. I did receive it, so just wanted to say that. So we can have a chat.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
It's been a really beautiful process going through this with you. Like doing the interview. I like afterwards. It took me a while to sort of piece myself back together a little bit because when you talk about yourself, you start to see more than what you actually,
Yeah.
And that's when like that the imposter came right in, like after that whole just kicked right in. And I was like, oh, what? Why did Madelaine ask me? You know, and I had to work through that with Lenore.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I love this process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's so powerful.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I will connect with you soon again. I'll definitely let you know when it's all out. I'll do the interviews first, and then we'll do the coaching sessions after.
Yep.
But
Okay.
I'll probably upload it and send you links anyway, and uploaded all of it. But I've edited your interview already, so
Okay.
I'm trying to get them under half an hour, which
yeah.
has been proven to be a bit of a challenge sometimes, because you're like, oh no, you don't want to cut too much. But just I think half an hour is quite a good amount of time. To do that. These ones I won't obviously do that. It's just start till finish, not all this us babbling in the end, but all the other bits. So
oh really?
Yeah. This is the best part, the extras.
Yeah. The outtakes.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, it's always a pleasure.
Really thank you. Absolutely, right back at you. It's I feel very blessed. Thank you.
I'll chat to you soon. Have a good
I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.